customization. Also, too, since we're going to be here today, just for the people that do return, that have a love for knowledge and all, try to drag some people with you, you know what I'm saying? As far as some other people, so you probably have another good crowd tomorrow, or maybe even a bigger crowd, whatever the deal is. Try to drag some people down, just to take advantage of, because it's not every day that everybody's in town. And ever since the whole Afrocentric thing kind of died down, it's been kind of scarce throughout the whole country. So it's not just here in Indianapolis. It's almost nothing in Atlanta. There's almost nothing in New York other than, when different people come to town occasionally, you know what I'm saying. And I think basically the reason why is because the historical thing was fine, but it got to the point where as most of the people that went and accessed the information and had a whole bunch of historical things in their libraries, they said, well, I got all that, so it's no need for me to necessarily come and here you say the same thing that I got in my own libraries and stuff. So as a result, the stuff kind of died down, which is very key because as a result, the white boy in 1990, in the late 80s, in the early 90s, when the whole Afrocentric thing was going down and we was actually getting and actually re-implicating our history, or actually rebuilding our history from ground up, he was silent. You didn't hear this white boy at all. Other than a few little things with Little Jeffries, he was basically silent. That's because the scholars were too powerful and he didn't dare attack this thing like he did the whole Ebonics thing and everything else. You see what I'm saying? He didn't dare come and try to attack John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben or whatever. So they knew, based on not the scholars and not the movement, but based on black people being faddish, that sooner or later the actual energy was going to wear off for it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And as a result, around 1995 or 1994, then when this particular whole Afrocentric phenomenon started literally dying down a little bit, then he started popping up with these scholars. This white woman wrote a book, Not Out of Africa. And they got a new white boy that wrote a book on Afrocentricity. I see it up at Barnes and Noble, and he's talking, and so what he does, see the whole premise now is, well, although the white man was wrong for hiding all this history and making it all whitenized, he's saying that the black people are guilty of doing the same thing white people did by talking about racial superiority. So basically, they have started gearing up to attack this thing because they understand that the movement has basically kind of dwindled down. So by the movement dying down a little bit and they don't have the actual guns to come out of sight, then they start rearing their heads. You see what I'm saying? And trying to doggone demolish what was already put together in the late 80s and early 90s. And the problem is because the movement is not strong, it's always a certain group of conscious people that always come to things, and it's going to always be that way. And it's never the masses of the people. So but then again, on the other hand, even though it wasn't the masses of the people, we still were supposed to have a greater crowd of people, or greater people really synthesizing this stuff than what we did have. So let's say we had a couple of thousand, basically a couple of thousand throughout the whole United States in the 10-year period of this thing lasting. We could say 1977, 87, with them going to Ascat, going to Egypt, from 1987 to like 1997. We're supposed to have a greater part of people into this particular part when you figure our number. But it acted different, and we'll get into that particular information on some other things that's also happening on some government inputs. But then again, on the other hand, like I said, this stuff is now being under attack. So, on the other hand, dealing with what we are into now, and that is the second phase of the Afrocentric movement, which is the whole metaphysical phenomenon, or what you would call the occult, which means that which is hidden. And me and a couple of other people has been involved in this particular phase for the last 6 years. And all right, so therefore, because of the other people, it's like if those certain people don't come to town, you don't get as many lectures. So what it is I think we're going to have to work on that to make things much more accessible, you see, to try to build this thing back up. And we realize it's never going to be the masses. The masses has never did anything but one thing, died. That's it. You see what I'm saying? Died. So we're not really interested in quantity, but we're interested in quality, because that's what the white boy understands, that we're talking about this nucleus. And this nucleus, and obviously, when we get into some things we'll be going into in a few minutes, obviously some things are working, because this whole Monica Lewinsky thing, the whole thing in Kenya, all of this particular stuff is a government invention to basically keep your minds off of what you're supposed to be dealing with. And they understand that, and remember, it's always based on the summer solstice and certain times that they do certain things, and you can bet your money. And they keep the stuff actually going to keep some of the people's minds occupied, because there can be a breakthrough in a minute now on the Christ level, which we'll get into also too. But we have to redirect some things over the course of the day and tomorrow to actually deal with paths that nobody even deal with, and that is what is called the dark side, which will deal with some of that particular information. And it's not the negative connotation as what you think it is. It's just basically the underworld mysteries, of what you would call the deepest mysteries of the subconscious, or the black rites of Osiris, which we'll get into later. So right now, let's pour a little bit of libation. So we're going to go for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and take a little break. You know what I'm saying? Depends on, when. And then we'll come back and finish it out. And then we'll come back tomorrow and do some more. And like we said, what we're doing is this is basically an introduction for further meetings. You see what I'm saying? So it's all good. All right. So you know the whole drill. We do Ashe, which means power. So be it. What is another name for Ashe? I know it is basically, and then let me explain this to you. You take these particular libations and you pour libations. You pour libations because in actuality you're enhancing your own energy. When you pour these libations, you are actually saying these particular entities to your own subconscious, and you enhance your own energy. So it's best to pour libations before you go to court, or whenever you're doing some things that you think you need a little bit of help on. It's best to do this because you're enhancing your own energy. You see what I'm saying? It's no different than what the people in the church do. They just don't understand the metaphysical thing. They think it's all about Jesus doing it. But they don't understand that they're using the same Jesus as a metaphor to tap into the subconscious. There's a higher science on that. They just attribute it all to the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? But in actuality, it's the higher science on what is actually happening. And because they don't know the higher sciences, they're thinking it's somebody outside of themselves. But even the Bible says the kingdom is within. You see, so we're talking about that. So you pour these particular libations, remember that one of the main keys is you're enhancing your own energy. And I'll get deeper into that also too. Plus, I guess we'll give about an hour to entertain question and answer also too, because I think that the question and answer is the best part of the lecture. It's becoming more and more that. So if you got some questions and stuff, even if it's controversial, be free to ask those particular questions, and don't think that you are not challenged. Don't think that don't be too afraid to challenge me on what is something that's in your mind. That means the Spirit put it out there so it can be dealt with. Okay? So, you know the words, I say this, and you go Ashe. Ain, Ashe, Ain Sa Ashe, Ain Sa, Ashe Sephra, Ashe Heather, Ashe Shakma, Ashe Bina, Ashe Shed, Ashe Heber, Ashe Tibrus, Ashe Masa, Ashe Had, Ashe Yased, Ashe Malkuth, Ashe Henea, Ashe Shekinah, Ashe Kalipah, Ashe Ava, Ashe Kolia, Ashe Magneto, Ashe Mars, Ashe Helios, Ashe Venus, Ashe Mercury, Ashe Diana, Ashe Ceres, Ashe Osea, Ashe Aset, Ashe Tahuti, Ashe Ba, Ashe Ra, Ashe Fatah, Ashe Amin-Ra, Ashe Amin-Rintanta, Ashe Anu, Ashe Anubis, Ashe Anpu, Ashe Fatah, Ashe Sut-Nubis, Ashe Sut, Ashe Sut-Nephi. Y'all gotta keep on going high, you know. Heru, Ashe Anpu, Ashe Aset, Ashe Never, Ashe Sekmet, Ashe Sashet, Ashe Nu, Ashe Abbot, Ashe Kyr, Ashe Kayama, Ashe Leah, Ashe Bela, Ashe Gaia, Ashe Ishtar, Ashe Anama, Ashe Yuma, Ashe Odin, Ashe Frigga, Ashe Balda, Ashe Laki, Ashe Dog, Ashe Friar, Ashe Freya, Ashe Phil, Ashe Nesbit, Ashe Nanertus, Ashe Nanertu, Ashe Brahmin, Ashe Rabini, Ashe Shakti, Ashe Shiva, Ashe Kali, Ashe Rabini, Ashe Vishnu, Ashe Ramachandra, Ashe Shiva, Ashe Shakti, Ashe Indasula, Ashe Insita, Ashe Hanuman, Ashe Lakshmi, Ashe Jinsaya, Ashe Lewa, I say Papagay, I say Ife, I say Emawalawelo, I say Amasrasha, I say Bridget, I say Edinburgh, I say Okurelli, I say Ogusengo, I say Ladun, I say Leba, I say Edowedo, I say Zaka, I say Nakumpa, I say Omelenga, I say Hulu, I say Sulu, I say Shabnira, I say Hazathar, I say Abathos, I say Hastar, I say Yosato, I say Dagon, I say Dogon, I say great old ones, I say great ones, I say Alafi, I say, all right, let's keep on rolling. Oshosi, I say Olakun, I say Olaroon, I say Oduduwa, I say Obadala, I say Arula, I say Arun, I say Oshun, I say Shango, I say Lepa, I say Ife, I say Yeminya, I say Orisha Oku, I say Oya, I say, okay, let's keep it going on. All right. Ra, I say Ka, I say Ba, I say Ab, I say Abra, I say Ku, I say Sahu, I say Ka, I say Kat, I say Sekil, I say Osir, I say Sut, I say Sut, I say Amma, I say Niyama, I say Ba, I say Na, I say Oma, I say Nomo, I say Yuguru, I say Yuguru, I say Kuntu, I say Dinikaria status, I say Uzimu, I say Uzimu, I say Muzimu, I say Kamara, I say Kingu, I say Kamara, I say Muzimu, I say Marambo, I say Rarenki, I say Muzimu, I say Bo, I say Da, I say Seldo, I say Dodo, I say Pa, I say He, I say Mala, I say Si, I say Malanisa, I say Leba, I say Awad, I say Owad, I say Abba, I say Thunderdog, I say Sunbear, I say Henry, I say Patah Unra, I say, okay, a little more you all. Bear with me. Ready? Bear with me. Just a little more. Gaia, I say Uranus, I say Kronos, I say Rhea, I say Octanus, I say Titus, I say Hepharim, I say Memphis, I say Titus, I say Leviathan, I say Lephius, I say Colios, I say Cyrus, I say Phoebe, I say Thea, I say Prometheus, I say Hydra, I say Epimetheus, I say Atlas, I say Metis, I say. All right. One more. All right. Omen Tutu, I say Ane Tutu, I say Ili Tutu, I say Tutu Leba, I say Kofi Ka, I say Kofi Arun, I say Kofi Iyo, I say Kofi Oko, I say Kofi Indra, I say Kofi Pababa, I say Mata Waya, I say Moko Walafi, I say Mojo Ogo Itun, I say Mojo Ogo Itun, I say Mojo Ogo Risha, I say Mojo Ogo Iku, I say Ila the Mare, Ola the Mare Arun, I say Nika Masi Gogo, I say Babala Sadila Ogogo, I say Nika Masi, I say, okay, let's see. So, the Hemmitt family, I share. The Shaw family, I share. The Davis family, all my family members. To all guys known and unknown, I share. Okay, when I call this out, you, when I say 1, 2, 3, start coming out the family members that have passed on. 1, 2, 3. I share. 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 To all guys known and unknown, I share. To all ancestors known and unknown, I share. Okay. All right, so we're going to deal with that. What famous person do you know that passed on was from these parts? There's got to be somebody famous that was black that's not with us now, that's done a great thing, that was from Indianapolis, or from Indiana.
West Montgomery.
West Montgomery Jazz? West Montgomery? So, when did he pass on? I'm just saying, it doesn't matter. It's been a while. Well, that's cool. So we'll dedicate the lecture to him. You see what I'm saying? And that's how we do things. We'll dedicate this lecture to him. We think of somebody else near the parts tomorrow and dedicate the next lecture. So we're going to dedicate that lecture so we give a good ashe to him. Ashe. Yeah. And we'll deal with that particular thing. So right now, we're going to start off. Let me give you a couple of things on what's going on. We'll deal with the hard topic right now. And that is basically, we'll deal with that to start things off. And that particular thing is first of all, the whole thing with this Monica Lewinsky and all that, first of all, that's all fake. Right. Number one, they even hired this man in 1993. They even hired this man in 1990 to do that, and that was all a part of the script. Now, anybody saw the movie Wag the Dog, they showed the same damn picture that they showed in the Monica Lewinsky with him hugging with the beret on. They showed the same picture, or a picture like it in Wag the Dog, but the movie was made a year before. Right. You see what I'm saying? Now, the key is what's happening here is this. And I told the people in New York this also. I said, you can make sure that during the summer solstice, a lot of stuff is going to go down. And you can look these cardinal points: summer solstice, winter solstice, spring equinox, and fall equinox. And each time those particular areas or those particular currents come in, there's always going to be some things that's going on. Usually they used to take care of this based on holidays. You know, Easter, which would be the vernal equinox or your spring equinox. You know, 4th of July, which would be this whole Sirius rising complex. You see what I'm saying? In the fall, you would have both Halloween, you see, and which is the whole All Saints Day, you know, and also the whole Thanksgiving. You see, and then for the fall equinox and the winter solstice, you would have Christmas. All of these are Masonically coded holidays. Now, I know that the Afrocentric movement came in and talked junk about the holidays, but what they don't realize is these people celebrated these holidays because these holidays, not the Christian thing. See, that's the ghost part. The whole thing about the pilgrims and the turkey and all that bullshit. If you go to the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you go to the Book of Coming Forth by Day, and if you go to the Gnostic Scriptures, you go to any of these books, you will see something called the Thanksgiving ritual. There's always a Thanksgiving in all of these particular texts. Even in your book, the Upper Bible, you will see the Thanksgiving text. That means that that's talking about the All Saints Day or some type of energy. There's an energy field for people to get magnetized, or people to have spiritual experiences to help them to the next venture or to the next gateway. So what they would do is they would take a ghost holiday, which would be the pilgrims, would be the whole thing with Jesus, you see, for Christmas, or would be some pumpkins and some whole Halloween thing. It would be all of that, but it's too loud. Huh? Yeah. What you got? Turn that, yeah. It would be those particular things, because I really don't need a microphone at all. Yeah. I mean, you can hear me shoot out. You know how that goes. That's taken care of by the Spirit, or that type of thing. But anyway, what will happen is they will have these ghost holidays, and they will put these over something that was a Masonic ritual based on something that was taught to them by the Moors. So it's authentic. The Moors are the black people that ruled Spain for 700 years and basically taught the European not only education, as you know, for people that's new on that, you got to go back and get the Golden Age of the Moors edited by the Ivan Van Sertima to learn all of the educational benefits. But there's some greater things that happen as far as the Masonic aspect. They set up the York Rite, your Scottish Rite, Rosicrucians, all of those particular Masonic groups, Knights Templar, all of those were set up by the Moors. Your whole Ireland. The island was first colonized by some black Moors called the Cavaliers. And later on, that river dance thing that they do, that river dance, that comes from West Africa. If you go to West Africa, you will see the same dancing with the legs and the body still and the legs moving without the body moving. That comes from West Africa. We're not talking about a teaching thing, we're talking about a lineage or a black lineage that was there that England took the next couple hundred years to wipe out. After the Moors left, the British, if you see Braveheart, that was all a movie based on the black element in Scotland. You see, that they had to go and wipe out. Certain parts in France that England fought for 100 years to wipe that element out. Remember in the movie Braveheart, they said, we can't kill them off, we'll breed them off. But why breed them off if they're the same race? So that whole part was to wipe that particular part out. As we do scholarship and all, and we can document things, there's a new book out called Everything is Under Control by Robert Anton Wilson. And in that book, if you read the part by Noble Ali is up in there, read that section, and there's going to be another guy up in there by the name of Bob Quinn. And in that section, he's going to go into this whole Irish connection, which I already broke this thing years before it already happened. Also, you want to get a movie called The Secrets of Rowan-ish. The Secrets of Rowan-ish. And it's about these dark people that lived in Ireland, but they said that they were born by seals. Well, that's a cold thing talking about black people. You see. So the whole key with St. Patrick's, running the snake people out of Ireland. Well, you can't running the snakes. They say he ran all the snakes out. Well, how can you, that's like saying you're going to run all the grass out of Ireland, all the dirt. That means he ran the snake people out of Ireland. You see. So now, which is very, now why I'm setting this up, because there's some mythology that is your mythology that you got to start dealing with. We give you 2 movies to start you off, and then you can go and buy certain books. Because it's very key that you start dealing with this, because it comes by the way of Ireland and on into England, and the queen and your girl that got killed last summer in the summer, so got a lot to do with that shit. What's your girl? Princess Di. Anyway, your Cathars are a group of people, which is a Gnostic group of people that settled Ireland. And as a result, they also brought certain mysteries, and one of the mysteries is called your Grail mysteries, or your Holy Grail mysteries, or the mysteries of King Arthur. So you're going to go and you're going to rent the movie Merlin, which was the Moor. Or you're going to rent the movie Excalibur. Those 2 movies, you're going to rent those movies. And then after you rent those movies, you will be able to go and read any good books on the Grail thing. Let's see if I got a good one up in here. So you're a good one. But first, what you want to do is you want to go rent those 2 movies and you want to get familiar with the whole Grail thing. Then, I want you to go and buy this book, The Secret Tradition in Arthurian Legend. The Secret Tradition in Arthurian Legend by Gareth Knight. By Gareth Knight. So basically, the whole thing is based on this cup that bears the blood of Jesus Christ. We'll get into that in a few minutes, but let me go back to the hard copy right now and tell you some other things that's going on. I don't want to get off the subject, but remember that. We're going to deal with this in a few minutes. But anyway, what's going on is this. The Moors set up a lot of these holidays, or they set up a lot of these Masonic rituals or festivals that is supposed to be done on spring, the spring equinox, fall equinox, winter solstice, summer solstice. Now, you best bet, because this is directly tied in with your energy, on these days you can expect some things to happen. And I guarantee you, anything that happened to black people that got you emotional in the last 5 years happened on these cardinal points. Let's see. Tupac got killed in the fall equinox. Yeah, murdered in the fall equinox. Got you all talking about that. Then he got killed or murdered in the winter solstice. You see? The boy in Louisville last year got juked up the butt. Remember the guy got juked up the butt in the police thing? During the summer solstice. This year they had a brother get drugged from Florida during the whole spring equinox into the summer solstice. The whole Kenyan building, and they blew up Kenya and all that stuff that happened, summer solstice. You see what I'm saying? Because you love this president so much, and he's directly related to you because he done hired so many Negroes, they take him down in the summer solstice. You get it? It's always on these particular random points that they do things. Because Quantico, Virginia, which is the behavioral science department of the United States of America, says one thing, that black people are not an intellectual people or an analytical people, but an emotional people. You see, this is Quantico, Virginia, and this is what all your FBI, CIA, and everybody that runs the country, military, go, and they understand that. They are not an intellectual people or an analytical people, but an emotional people. So give them marches, prayer visuals, and different things to vent their frustration. Even let them come in and talk shit about the white man. Right. That's all a part of the game. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And to vent their frustrations, and no matter what severe thing it is, in 3 weeks it's going to blow over. You see what I'm saying? Because we're on the animal level. That's true. You see what I'm coming from? So Quantico, Virginia says that you're not an analytical people, but an emotional people. So therefore, they know that there's certain energies that will actually happen during these particular times, it might wake you up. So as a result, they have to stage certain things. You see what I'm saying? So expect something to happen this fall, guaranteed. Well, since they got this whole Monica Lewinsky thing going on and they kind of stretching it out, they've already got that covered. You see what I'm saying? They already got it covered. You see? So you can expect some things to happen, and this is some things to make sure that you don't wake up, because they understand that in actuality, any day now, and any day can last a series of maybe a year, maybe a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of hours, but any day now, there's a cosmic seed in you that can open up and it will destroy all this shit. We're going to get into that also today too. So the key is, based on this cosmic Bindu seed opening up, they have to make sure that you stay shut down. You stay shut down. The very teach you understand that. Now look at this. So I want to, like, this whole thing with this whole thing with the whole this part here. First of all, my point is why are they traveling together? That's what I want to understand. What the deal is? They got it in Texas. Then they got it in Texas. They got this in Texas. They got it in Atlanta. They got it in a couple other places. My point is why are you traveling together with this whole thing? You see what I'm saying? Some things is based on money. But my point is this. We got to understand this. Look. Don't let nobody fool you. All over the country, all over the world, people are looking at you because now there's no such thing as local nothing. Everything, there's no such thing as, which display, I hit something, but anyway, there's no such thing as local anything. Everything that is done here will be beamed up on a satellite, and they get it in China, they get it in Africa, they get it all over the place. So therefore, what you do, basically, is dictated, or what you do is actually the image of what people get around the world. So now look, they say here's the world-class people. And ain't anybody know that if the Japanese got a bomb dropped on their head in World War II, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. 30 years later, these people, you see what I'm saying, is what? 30 years, there was already a power, but 40 years later, these people was the economic power. That's right. So you start marching in 1963, you understand what I'm saying? Right. And in the 90s, 30 years later, you still marching. The whole world is looking at you as a sad, disgusting people. Mm-hmm. You see? Sad, disgusting people. So the marches, in actuality, is showing that you have progress 1 day in 30 years. And although you might say, well, I feel good getting on the bus and doing all this kind of stuff, this is the way the people around the world view you.
Indeed, that's right.
Because there's no such thing as local TV anymore. Everything you do, just like Chris Rock on the front cover of Vanity Fair magazine in clown face. You see what I'm saying? In clown face. Which means the same step-and-fetch thing are the minstrel shows from the turn of the century on into the doggone 1940s and 30s. You know, and whatever. You see? Step-and-fetchedness, so they can pattern this stuff in the modern-day society, in the postmodern culture. They can pattern the same image. So now you got the step-and-fetch thing, you got your boy, Master P. Master P is a step-and-fetch idiot.
You already know.
And the key is this. If you go to the Atlanta University Center, you got 7 colleges there. And the majority of the people around there listen to Master P. But yet Master P is the kind of Negro, and we're not being elitist or nothing, but this Negro couldn't put ketchup on a damn hamburger the right way in McDonald's, had to been for some bull-jive rap. So you're saying that's kind of being kind of harsh. But see, you don't understand. You got to think on a bigger level. So you got to, let me show you the science in this. Okay, listen. And I talked about this before, but you got to understand the science on this so you can understand the game that's going down. Right. You look at the rap artists, you say, well, hey, that's just an urban thing, because we know that rap had a good beginning, and it started out as an urban alternative to other soul, gospel, jazz, and all that. It was just an urban outlet. You understand what I'm saying? Nothing more. So you look at it because you know the history of it, so you don't see nothing wrong with the whole thing. The white boy sat back and found, because it first was innocent, and it had a lot of innovativeness style to it that in actuality was another form of genius. But he stepped back and said, I can exploit this.
Indeed. Right.
So as a result, what he has done is you know that that's the urban sound. That used to be an urban sound. You see what I'm saying? Because now most of the people that's producing the stuff that's ahead of things is not urban. Louisiana is not urban. It's what we know as urban used to be. Inner city or whatever type thing and all. In Miami, those are what you call southern states, and now you got the whole southern rap thing. But let me go into some things. I don't want to get too far into genre, but I will add this new word the black people say. But I want to get more into the science on what the white boy is doing. So you go by what you like. You hear something on the radio, and because you like it, you figure that's it. I don't care, I like it. But see, that's the subhuman level of